Hey dreamers, this is Saki and welcome back to my channel. Today I have something very special for you that probably quite a few are happy about. A while ago I made a video with the top 10 tips and tricks for Dreams beginners, and it has helped thousands of people with absolutely insanely positive feedback. So I decided to make a follow-up video helping people to get better after they're out of the beginner stage. So here are the top 10 advanced tips and tricks for Dreams, and I really thought about what kind of tips I want to give you and how to present them to you. So I came up with the idea taking you guys with me on making a scene from scratch to end while giving you the most valuable tips I can. So much effort went into this, so please do me a favor and subscribe to the channel and ring that bell, it really helps me out. But now, without further ado, let's dive into it. Number 1. Set a goal that you can actually achieve. One of the biggest mistakes of people coming into Dreams is that they set their intentions way too high. They straight away want to make the next Skyrim or something, and it can easily get frustrating when things don't work out. So my first advice is to start small. Maybe go for a simple game. I'm just showing you a little snippet on a game I made from back in the beta, as well as one of my first scenes. And even a game might be too much at the beginning, so start with a scene, and if you don't know how to approach that, start with making assets. Everything you make will help you to improve to eventually be able to shape all of your dreams, literally. Number 2. Take inspiration and motivation from other artists. There's always two perspectives about looking at better artists. One being that it's frustrating to you because you are no way near their skill level and never will be, which is a bad perspective, but you really have the choice. Why not take inspiration and motivation from other artists to want to improve your own skill? Feedback is important, which you can easily get in the Dreams community. But don't seek for attention, just try to make your own thing and enjoy it at first. I can also recommend you to look at someone else's scenes or assets and take inspiration to create your own versions. In fact, that's what I've been doing from time to time again, and it definitely helped me to improve my own art. Actually, that's again what I did for the scene that we're going to create together in this video. So now let's start creating. Number 3. Start with a blockout at first. Creating a layout, or also called gray boxing, helps you to really understand and get a feel for what you're about to create. It helps a lot to get an overview over the scale, and is especially important for level design for games to get a feel of what the level will actually be like for a player without putting in too much effort yet. A gray box should be fast and simple and pretty much a base that you can build on. It is also very helpful for scene creation, and Dreams also allows us to use colors fairly easy without putting in much effort, which is helpful. Here's a quick look at my finished layout for this scene. At number 4, after adding much more detail over the layout, we can now go on and adjust the finishes of our sculpts. Now, most beginners will go into the code mode and just choose one of the finishes and apply it. But as an advanced dreamer, you kind of want to start using the tweak menu of sculpts to adjust the finishes individually to your liking. You can do the same for paintings after activating the finish in its tweak menu. Finishes are really important and change the whole look and quality of a creation. I always kind of recognize a beginner when their scenes have a bit of a shiny ground or grass without it actually raining. Ground looks much better when adding a high roughness to it, but for finishes in general, it is really up to your personal liking and finding out what looks right. After using Dreams for so long, I have my kind of routine of using specific finish settings to specific textures. I recommend you to try out a lot for yourself. Another point here is that you can also start using custom colors. Of course, the color palette is still great, but sometimes it's still better to go for more variety in there. you can activate it on the touchpad of the controller. Number 5. Creating textures with surface snap smearing. Now, surface snap smearing is one of the most powerful techniques when it comes to create textures in Dreams. It also has become quite common, especially for creating realistic textures, and for this technique you just kind of want to use a shape. I mostly use the sphere and put a hole into it. Then you can also change the grab point on the move controller, activate surface snap and spin your object, and then we can just kind of start smearing onto the surface, which creates this kind of texture that you can also see from the distance, unlike the flex. This technique is quite time consuming, but if you're doing it right you can achieve amazing looks with it and almost photorealism as well. If you're finished, you can also adjust the finish and colors of it to make it look even better, and you can of course also adjust the quality in the sculpture detail tool and the looseness. Number 6. The Curvy Tool. Now, most of you probably know about the draw flex options, which allows us to draw thicker or thinner lines the harder we press R2. Now, did you know that you can do pretty much the same with the Curvy Tool in 3D when unedited? No? I did not either for a long time, but it is a very useful tool that allows us to work more creatively, more loose, and yeah, they're great examples of using this tool. Of course, you can also use the Curvy Tool in the edit mode, if you didn't know that, for really amazing shapes and complex shapes, which is very helpful for many different things. Another amazing thing about this is that you can also use this for spray painting, which is actually essential for spray painters and painters in Dreams in general. Here I'm just showing you another example of using it. With the surface snap activated, I'm just drawing some of those ranks around this pillar, which is very cool and useful. After we created that quite loose, we can still adjust the looks of it to our liking. And we can also use this in many different ways, which leads me to my next point. Number 7. The Thermo optimization. I'm still reading many comments that a lot of you are struggling with the Thermo and that you max it out quite fast. So here are a few tips for Thermo optimization. First, before you go and use the looseness tool, you can just go into the tools and actually use the sculpture detail tool. If you reduce the detail of your sculpt, you make it more loose and actually lower the Thermo at the same time. It kind of has the same effect like actually increasing the looseness, which helps to, well, have more Thermo in general. Another tip is to reuse assets. Did you know that you can change an asset completely and still it doesn't add up to the Thermo as long as you don't spray paint it or add something to it? Meaning that you can change the color amount, change the finishes and change the flag type. For example, I'm just showing you how you can use this rock that we made and make a mossy, grassy kind of version out of it by just changing some options in the tweak menu and changing the flag type. You could also use this exact same rock just to make grass and put it somewhere else in the scene without it actually taking up any Thermo at all. Little tips and tricks like that really help to improve your Thermo in general and make the most out of your levels. The most important tip is still though to work with the sculpture detail tool. I mostly go about maxing out the looseness at first, like making it as sharp as possible, and later on work with the sculpture detail tool to reduce it and save up some Thermo and make stuff loose if I need to. As you can see here, we can use those kind of versions that don't take up any more Thermo in many different ways. Here's a quick look at what I made out of this scene after putting in all the detail and actually placing the sculpts as I want them to be. Now, the interesting thing about this is that I just fully detailed out this first area that I made with all its detail, all its sculpts as they should be, all finishes, a little bit of Thermo optimization as well, and then I just reused that that specific area to make this whole scene. And you can easily do that without making it look repetitive if you just change it up. Scale it up and down, mirror it, place it in different ways, and maybe add little things here and there or change up stuff. For example, I put like a portal or gate up there, which looks kind of magical, I think. And my tip number 8 is to not just be finished, but keep looking for what you can improve. Add more details like I did with the clouds and the fog down there, and add a little bit of mystery and fantasy to your scene if you're going for it, of course. Number 9, the atmosphere. Now comes what I call the magic. Adjusting the sky and sun gadget as well as the gradient effects gadget is always one of the most fun parts for me, but also one of the hardest parts, just simply because it is really hard for me to decide what kind of atmosphere I want to go for, because there's so many options. Here I'm just showing you what you can actually do with these gadgets and how to achieve the best looks, also explaining a little bit of stuff. So first, what beginners really struggle with is that the huge flags of the classic Dream Sky kind of come through their creations, and that mostly ruins it completely. So how you can change that is go in the sky gadget and change the fog range. By that you kind of get rid of all these huge flags, and you can also change the flag perspective kind of thing to 0%, which also helps. In general, you can get a really clean sky if you want to, but even more importantly is the gradient effects gadget. Here you can adjust the brightness, the contrast, the saturation, different kind of tones as well, and add nice little effects and stuff. But here you can already see how I'm trying out a little bit, trying around with different kind of stuff until I find what might look best for the scene or to my personal liking here. On the second tab you can adjust the shadows and midtone colors, which is really important to play around with, and I definitely recommend you to try around and get a feel for what it actually does and how it affects your scene. It is always very different from scene to scene because of all the different colors you're using as well. Now on the third tab we have the bloom and lens flare option, which is always really important as well. Even though for this scene specifically it doesn't do too much, you can also increase the sharpness and play around with some other options, like making the camera almost look like a fish eye kind of view. And yeah, it's really cool to play around with these options, it is quite fun, and you can definitely improve your scene big time. On the last page we have even more fun options. For example, you can give your scene a pixel or retro look, which is always interesting to me personally as well. And my favorite feature, the posterize option. In my opinion it looks so freaking cool trying around with the posterizing option, but for this scene I just leave it to 0. You also have this kind of chrome kind of effect which makes your creation look a little bit dreamlike maybe. And yeah, all these options are really fun to play around with. Here's what I went for in the end. And yeah, after that you can just go on and make little adjustments like I'm doing here to the sky. I changed the flag to 0 in the end to have a smooth sky instead. And yeah, this is really also up to personal liking as well. Number 10, and the last thing we can do for our scene to still improve it, is add spotlights. Add little highlights and last little improvements to your scene, and spotlights are really powerful for that. Especially the spotlight images option is so cool, and you can really use it to improve your scene even further. For example, you can highlight specific places or use it to actually improve the texture or how something looks like specifically as well. Now, if you're thinking this completely fakes your scene, then surprise, real games do that as well. They use fake lighting and highlight specific places, and is actually part of level design as well. So here I can just also really again recommend you to try around with your options, with your own likings of the spotlights, try around with the different kind of images options and just see what looks best for you really. There's so many options, so many cool things you can do with them. You can also of course do light rays, and also if you look closely at Art's Dream, Media Molecules using them wonderfully to bring this world to life by making them move, and just little details like that you barely even notice without actually focusing on it as well. And here's a look at the final scene that we created together in this video by using the tips that I gave you. And I think it turned out really cool. I think it looks great, and it is especially amazing because when we look back at the blockout that we did at first and what this turned into, it's always so cool to see. This is also why I like making a blockout, because it looks so simple and bad compared to the final thing. And personally, I just enjoy it so much to create worlds, to see it coming to life. And you know what, it also doesn't have much thermo at all, if you're wondering, and we didn't fully optimize it yet. If I delete the blockout now, it doesn't even have 15% on both thermos. And yeah, this is just so cool. You can create huge worlds in Dreams if you actually do thermo optimization and use the tools to its best. Here I'm also showing you how it looks like without the paintings and code style and effects, which also really interesting, I think. And yeah, with that, I would like to thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video and that it was helpful to you. If so, please give it a like, some feedback, and definitely make sure to share it with others so they can learn about all of these things as well. I've put in so much effort into this video, and any support is highly appreciated. Your support means the world to me, and I promise I'll keep giving my best. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring that bell to not miss out on future videos. I'll see you in the next one.